Hey, welcome to Imagine BL Story. If you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It really encourages my work and helps me bring you more stories. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy today's story. The first thing I registered when I woke up was the heartbeat under my palm, steady and strong, and the second thing was the scent. Alpha musk, whiskey, and something wild that shouldn't have been familiar but was, which was impossible because I'd only ever been close enough to raise Vetrovsky to put a bullet in him, not to memorize the rhythm of his pulse or recognize his scent in my sleep. Then I opened my eyes and confirmed my worst nightmare. We were naked, we were tangled together, and judging by the marks on his neck that matched the ache in my jaw, we'd done a lot more than just sleep. For exactly 3 seconds, my brain refused to process it. Then Ray's shifted, his hand tightening on my bare hip, and the heat of his palm was so viscerally real that my stomach dropped. I jerked backwards so fast I nearly fell off the bed. The sudden movement made my head pound. Apparently, I had been drunk enough last night to forget significant life choices, and Ray's eyes snapped open. For a moment, we just stared at each other. His eyes were that particular shade of dark brown that looked almost black, and I'd seen them across countless negotiation tables and over gun barrels for the past decade. But I'd never seen them this close, never seen the gold flecks near his pupils. Then reality crashed back in, and his expression shifted to something amused. His gaze dropped down my bare chest, and his lips curved into that infuriating smirk. "Well," Ray said, his voice rough with sleep. "Good morning, Bristow. You look like you're about to have a panic attack. Should I be offended? This was not happening. I was Dominic Bristow, head of the Bristow clan, known for control and precision, not for waking up tangled with my sworn enemy." "Get out," I managed. "Now, Vetrovsky." He propped himself up on one elbow, studying me with that intensity he usually reserved for planning someone's demise. His hair was a mess. My fingers had definitely been in it, and there was a bite mark on his collarbone. My bite. "That's a lot of hostility for someone who was begging me not to stop just a few hours ago," he said casually. "Or don't you remember?" "Because I remember, Bristow. I remember everything." The way he said my name made something hot coil in my gut. I grabbed my pants off the floor, needing any barrier between us. Whatever happened last night was a mistake. It meant nothing. It was the alcohol talking. "Is that what you're going with?" Ray sat up fully. "Deny everything and hope it goes away. Very mature, very alpha of you. What do you want me to say?" I snapped. "That I'm thrilled about this? This is a nightmare, Vetrovsky. For both of us. So let's pretend it never happened." Something flickered across his face before that smirk returned. He stood and started gathering his clothes. "You're right," he said, his voice going cold. "This was a mistake. Won't happen again." "Good. Just so we're clear, Bristow." He pulled on his pants, then his shirt. "You're the one who approached me last night. You're the one who couldn't keep your hands to yourself. So don't stand there acting like I crossed a line." Something inside me snapped. My alpha instincts roared to life before I could think, and suddenly I had him pinned against the wall. My hand was around his throat, squeezing hard enough to hurt, and my pheromones flooded the room with pure threat. "Don't," I growled, my face inches from his. "Don't you dare try to spin this like I wanted it. Like I chose this." For a heartbeat, Ray's went perfectly still. Then his own pheromones rose to meet mine, wild, dangerous, utterly unafraid. The scents clashed between us, 2 alphas locked in dominance that had nothing to do with territory and everything to do with pride. "Get your hand off me, Bristow," he said softly, which made it more threatening. "Or I'll break it." His body was tense, coiled. "And for the record, you walked right up to me, looked me in the eye, and said you were tired of pretending you didn't want to know what I tasted like. Then you kissed me like you were trying to prove something." The memory slammed into me, vivid and undeniable. The way I'd crossed that bar, the way I'd grabbed his collar and pulled him in like I had every right, the way he'd kissed me back just as hard, just as hungry. My hand loosened on his throat. Ray's pushed me back, creating space. "This can't happen again," I said. "Agreed." He finished dressing, headed for the door, then paused. "Oh, and Dominic, next time you want me, you're going to have to beg for it sober." Then he was gone, and I stood there trying to breathe through the lingering scent of our combined pheromones. My phone buzzed from the bed, 3 missed calls from Vera, 2 from Christoph, the people who kept my organization running and expected rational decisions. I was about to call Vera back when the phone rang. My sister, Isabella's name flashed across the screen. "Bella? What is it?" "Dom." Her voice was shaking, barely above a whisper. In the background, I could hear muffled sounds. Crying, someone trying to keep quiet. Dom, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. They said if I didn't call you, they'd. The line went dead. Ice flooded my veins. Then a text from an unknown number. A single photo. Isabella, bound and blindfolded, has tear tracks visible on her face. Below it, you have 48 hours. We'll be in touch. Everything else. Raise the night, my spiraling thoughts vanished. Nothing mattered except getting my sister back. I called Vera first. Boss, we've been trying to reach you. Isabella's been taken, I said, my voice flat and cold. Assemble the team. War room in 20 minutes. And Vera? Find out who's stupid enough to come after my family. I don't care what it takes. On it, she said and disconnected. Christoph picked up immediately. Dominic, is everything? Isabella's been kidnapped. I need you to trace a number for me. I rattled off the digits. Find out who they are and how we can get to them. Priority 1. Understood. I'm already on it. We'll find her, Dominic. I hung up and looked around the hotel room, which is on neutral territory, trying to calm my raging heart. Ray's scent still clung to my skin, and my sister was in the hands of people who just declared war. Another text came through. No police. No outside help. We're watching. Break the rules and you'll never see her again. 48 hours. Not a lot of time. And if these people were as professional as that photograph suggested, I might need help I didn't have access to. The kind that required resources and manpower I couldn't summon in 2 days. The kind that Ray's Vetrovsky had in spades. I stopped at the door and let myself consider it. Ray's was ruthless, unpredictable, and had access to parts of the city my people couldn't touch. He had contacts in places I'd never penetrated and a reputation that made people talk. He was also the last person I ever wanted to ask for anything, the man I'd woken up tangled with an hour ago. But he was also the best chance I had of getting Isabella back alive. And I'd swallow any amount of pride if it meant bringing my sister home. I caught my reflection in the mirror. Hair messed up, jacket wrinkled, the bite mark visible above my collar. I looked like someone who'd spent the night making mistakes, about to make another by walking into Ray's Vetrovsky's territory and asking the impossible. But somewhere between hating him and fighting him and apparently sleeping with him, I'd learned something. Ray's kept his word. Beneath the chaos and the violence, there was a code he lived by. And right now, I needed someone who understood code. Someone who knew how to fight dirty and win. I needed Ray's Vetrovsky, and I'd be damned if I was going to let pride or embarrassment stop me from doing what needed to be done. My sister's life depended on it. The Bristow clan headquarters was a converted warehouse in the industrial district. Exposed brick and steel beams, defensible and central. I'd chosen it 5 years ago to send a message. We operated in plain sight. Vera was waiting in the war room, her sharp eyes taking in my wrinkled suit and the bite mark I hadn't bothered to hide. She didn't comment, but her expression said plenty. Christoph's already working on the trace, she said, pulling up a digital map. I've got our best people canvassing trafficking rings, kidnapping crews. So far, nothing. It's professional. I studied the map, red dots for our territories, blue for neutral zones, black for Vetrovsky territory. That photograph was high quality, timing precise. They knew Isabella's schedule. Inside job. Or someone's been watching us. I started counting bullets under my breath. 1, 2, 3. An old habit that helped me think. Christoph entered carrying his laptop and coffee. The numbers a burner. Routed through 3 towers in neutral territory. He hesitated. 2 of them are near Vetrovsky operations. They're either framing Rays or using his territory because they know we won't look there first, I said immediately. Vera crossed her arms. Or Vetrovsky's involved. I thought about Ray's face this morning, the genuine confusion before the smirk. He's not involved. You sure about that, boss? Because I'm hearing rumors about you and Vetrovsky at some bar last night. So it was already spreading. What happened between Rays and me is irrelevant. What matters is getting Isabella back. Is it irrelevant? Vera challenged. If Vetrovsky's playing some game. He's not. The words came out harder than intended. Ray's Vetrovsky doesn't play games like this. When he wants to hurt someone, he does it directly. Christoph cleared his throat. There's something else. Recent trafficking activity shows an uptick. 3 families hit in 2 months. All got their people back after paying ransom, but within weeks they'd lost territory. Contracts fell through, shipments intercepted, key personnel disappeared. My mind raced. They're destabilizing families, using the chaos to move against them while they're vulnerable. Exactly, Christoph confirmed. 48 hours isn't about ransom. It's about forcing you to react quickly, make mistakes, expose weaknesses. Who's behind it? Two families never found out. The Caprianos blamed the Bratva, but the evidence doesn't fit. Wrong tactics. So someone's using multiple covers. I turned away from the screen. What do we know about Isabella's movements yesterday? Vera consulted her tablet. Lunch with friends in the arts district, shopping, stopped by your apartment to drop off food. Said you never eat properly, then disappeared. Her car was found abandoned 2 blocks from her building. Driver's side door open, phone on the seat. The details about the food hit hard. Isabella was always trying to take care of me. I want everyone who saw her yesterday brought in, and eyes on every trafficking crew we know about. Already on it, Vera said. But boss, if this is as organized as it looks, our usual contacts might not have anything. Which brought me back to the one option I'd been avoiding. Ray's had contacts I couldn't reach, a reputation that made criminals talk. I need to make a call. Vera's eyes narrowed. Dominic, I know what I'm doing. I pulled up Ray's number. Memorized years ago, never called, and dialed. He answered on the 3rd ring. Well, didn't expect to hear from you so soon, Bristow. Miss me already? I need to meet with you. Neutral territory. 1 hour. The background voices cut off. That sounds serious. Should I be worried you're planning to kill me for this morning's activities? My sister's been taken. I have 48 hours, and the people who took her are not the usual. I need your help. Silence stretched. When Ray spoke again, the mockery was gone. Text me the location. I'll be there. He hung up. I looked up to find Vera and Christoph staring. You're actually doing this, Vera said. Bringing Vetrovsky into this. I don't have a choice. We can handle this ourselves. Not in 48 hours. I met her gaze. I know you don't trust him, but he has resources we don't, and he has no reason to help whoever took Isabella. The Vetrovskys and the Bristow family might be enemies, but we've never gone after each other's civilians. That is the rule. Your father's dead, Vera said bluntly. The old rules don't mean anything anymore. They mean something to me. I thought about the way Ray's pheromones had risen to meet mine this morning. And I think they mean something to him, too. Christoph spoke quietly. If you're wrong, if Vetrovsky is involved, meeting with him gives him the advantage. Then I'll deal with that when it happens. I checked my watch. Vera, keep working the trafficking angle. Christoph, stay on that number. I'll handle Ray's. Boss, that's an order. My voice came out hard. Isabella doesn't have time for caution. She needs me to do whatever it takes. Vera's expression softened. Fine, but I'm tracking your location, and if anything feels wrong, I'm coming in with the whole crew. Agreed. I headed for the door, paused. And Vera? Not a word about this morning. Her lips twitched. Which part? The part where you spent the night with our sworn enemy? Or the part where half the underworld is gossiping about it? Both. The cafe I'd chosen was in neutral territory, quiet and discreet. I arrived 15 minutes early, took a corner booth with a clear view of the entrance, and ordered coffee I wouldn't drink. Ray's walked in exactly on time. He'd changed, black jeans, leather jacket, dark shirt that made him look like he belonged on a magazine cover instead of running a criminal empire. Devastatingly handsome in that wild, dangerous way that made people underestimate him. Sharp cheekbones, messy dark hair, and those eyes that could shift from amused to lethal in a heartbeat. One glance at him and you'd never guess he is a Mafia don. But the alpha pheromones radiating from him told a different story. Strong, potent, impossible to ignore even in a crowded cafe. Several patrons recognized him and quickly looked away. Survival instinct overriding whatever pretty face they saw. I'd made the mistake of underestimating him once. We were 16 and 15, both dragged to some underground fight by our fathers. I'd looked at his lean frame and cocky smile and thought he'd be easy. 3 minutes later, I was flat on my back with his boot on my chest and that infuriating smirk looking down at me. Don't let the face fool you, Bristow, he'd said. I never had again. He slid into the booth across from me, and up close, I could see faint shadows under his eyes. Like maybe he hadn't gone back to sleep after leaving that hotel room either. His gaze slid over me. Slow, deliberate, appraising, and everywhere it touched felt like it left heat in its wake. My body responded before my brain could catch up, temperature spiking, pulse quickening in ways that had nothing to do with adrenaline and everything to do with the way he was looking at me. Like he was remembering exactly what I looked like without clothes. Like he was considering doing it all over again. Right here in this public cafe. God, what was this? I'd spent a decade hating this man, fighting him, and now I had to clear my throat to keep from reacting like some omega in heat. The alpha pheromones rolling off him weren't helping, potent and deliberately aimed, making my instincts war between dominance and something far more dangerous. He seemed to snap out of whatever trance he'd fallen into, clearing his own throat, but I caught the way his pupils had dilated, the way his scent had shifted to something warmer, interested. "So," he said, leaning back in a posture that tried for casual but didn't quite land. His eyes were still alert, watchful, but there was heat in them now. "Tell me about your sister." "Isabella's 22, I said, keeping my voice steady. "Art history student. She's got nothing to do with the organization. I made sure of that. Whoever took her knew exactly what they were doing." I explained the pattern my crew had discovered. 3 families hit in 2 months, ransomed and returned, then systematically destroyed. Professional operation, targeting specific families for destabilization. When I finished, Reyes was quiet for a moment, studying me. "Why am I not on your suspect list?" he asked. "We're enemies." I'd be the obvious choice. "Because I know you." The words came out more certain than I'd intended. "This isn't your tactics. You fight directly. You don't hide behind anonymous threats." Something flickered in Rey's eyes. Surprise, maybe, or something softer. His lips curved into that smirk, but there was a warmth underneath it I'd never seen before. "You've been paying attention, Bristow. Hard not to. You've been a pain in my ass for a decade." He leaned forward, his fingers drumming once on the table, thinking, calculating. "Destabilization tactics," he said. "Smart. Take out the head of the family emotionally, force them to react instead of plan, then move in when they're vulnerable." "Exactly." I showed him the photo. "This is professional work." He studied Isabella's image, his jaw tightening. "The knots, the staging, the lighting, they've been preparing. This isn't some street crew." He looked up. "I have contacts who might know something. The kind who don't talk to the Bristow clan but might talk to me." I nodded at that. I came here ready for his help. "You know what you're asking, right?" His expression grew serious. "You come to me for help, that changes things between us. The balance we've had for 10 years. It shifts." "I know." And I did. Debts mattered in our world. "Name your price." "I'll help you," he said slowly. "But not for territory. Not for contracts or any of the usual bullshit our fathers fought over." My chest tightened. "Then what do you want?" "I'll tell you when this is over." He stood. "Right now, we need to move fast. We've already burned 3 hours." I followed him out to a black motorcycle. "Where are we going?" "To see someone who might know something. But he's not going to talk if you're standing there looking like you're about to arrest him." Reyes threw me a helmet. "Try to look less like a cop and more like you are part of my world." "I don't belong in your world," I said, taking the helmet. "No." His smile was dangerous. "You did last night. You belonged just fine." Heat crawled up my neck. "That was a mistake." "So you keep saying." He started the engine. "Get on, Bristow. We're wasting time." I climbed on behind him, hyper-aware of how close we were as he accelerated into traffic. The city blurred past, familiar streets giving way to rougher neighborhoods. Petrovsky territory. I'd been here before, usually with armed men, but never like this. Never alone. Never trusting him to lead me somewhere safe. We pulled up outside a warehouse. "The guy we're seeing, Kostya, a beta who runs illegal information networks. He hates the Bristow clan because your father killed his brother 15 years ago." "Great. That's why you're letting me do the talking." Inside, several armed men turned to look at us, but relaxed when they recognized Reyes. "Kostya," Reyes called out. "I need 5 minutes." A scarred beta emerged from the shadows, his expression hardening when he saw me. "You brought a Bristow into my place, Petrovsky?" "I'm trying to prevent a war," Reyes said easily. His sister was taken. Professional job. The kind of thing your network hears about. "I don't do business with the Bristow clan." "You're doing business with me." Reyes' casual ease sharpened into something predatory, his alpha presence filling the space. "And I'm asking nicely, which, if you remember the last time someone said no to me, you know is more courtesy than most people get." The temperature dropped. Kostya's men shifted toward weapons, but Kostya just studied Reyes. Then he laughed. 5 minutes. But he stays quiet. I nodded, forcing myself to trust Reyes' lead. "There's been chatter," Kostya said, "about a crew moving through the city. East Coast operation, maybe 2 months here. Professional kidnappers targeting specific families, specific people." "What families?" Reyes asked. "The ones with territory worth taking. The Bristow clan would fit that pattern perfectly." My hands clenched, but I stayed quiet. You have names? Locations? Names, no. But I heard they're operating out of the old industrial complex near the docks. The one the Petrovich family used to own. Kostya crossed his arms. That's all I've got. And Vetrovsky? This conversation never happened. Never does. Outside, I grabbed Ray's arm. The industrial complex. That's 15 different buildings, most condemned. If Isabella's there, we'll find her. His voice was steady. But we're not going in blind. That place is a maze. If this crew is professional, they'll have security, surveillance, and exits. We need a plan. I don't have time for a plan. I have 42 hours. And you'll have 0 hours if you rush in and get yourself killed. Reyes stepped closer. I know you're scared. I know you want to tear this city apart. But that's not how you win this. Don't tell me how to win. I shot back, my alpha pride bristling. I've been winning since before you. Since before I took over at 19, while you waited until 23? His smile was sharp. Or are you bringing up that territory dispute from 5 years ago? The one where I outmaneuvered you for 3 months straight. I remembered that dispute. The fury of being beaten by someone younger. The grudging respect that had formed beneath the hatred. That's different. Is it? His eyes locked onto mine. 2 alphas too close, neither backing down. You're trying to force a win through determination instead of thinking it through. That worked when we were kids. It doesn't work now. We were never kids, I said quietly. That first meeting, 15 and 16, already carrying guns and unearned reputations. No, Reyes agreed, his voice softening. We weren't. He was close enough that I could see his pulse. Look, I get it. She's your sister. You'd burn the world for her. But charging in emotionally is exactly what they want. So we do this smart. Together. The word hung between us, together. Like we were partners instead of enemies. Fine, I said roughly. We do it your way. But if this goes wrong, it won't. I'm very good at what I do, Bristow. And what I do best is win. We were standing too close, the space charged with something that wasn't quite hostility anymore. Why are you helping me? I asked quietly. Really? Something raw flashed across his face. Maybe I'm tired of this war. Tired of fighting you when I'd rather. My phone rang just then, cutting him off. Christoph's name. What is it? They sent another message. You need to see this. The photo made my blood run cold. Isabella, on her knees, face bruised and bleeding. Her arms wrapped around a boy about 10 years old, holding him against her chest like she was trying to shield him with her own body. The boy's dark hair and terrified eyes were visible. Below, tick-tock, Bristow. 40 hours left. And your sister's making this harder than it needs to be. Rage and fear warred inside me. Isabella was protecting that child even while being beaten. That was exactly who she was. Who's the kid? Reyes asked, moving beside me. His voice had gone sharp, strange. I don't know. Christoph's probably running facial recognition. Let me see that photo. Something in his tone made me look up. Not mockery or danger, but something else. Something wrong. I handed him the phone and watched his reaction carefully. His face didn't change, not dramatically, but I'd spent 10 years studying him, learning every micro-expression, every tell. The way his pupils contracted fractionally, the minute tension in his jaw, the almost imperceptible hitch in his breathing. He knew this boy, and whatever that knowledge meant, it terrified him. Reyes, I touched his arm. Do you know this kid? When he finally spoke, his voice was carefully controlled. Too controlled. We need to move. Now, if they have that boy where I think they're taking him, 40 hours might already be too late. The ride back to my headquarters was tense and silent. Ray's body was rigid against mine, every muscle locked tight, and I could feel the tremors running through him despite his attempts to hide them. Whatever he'd seen in that photo had shaken him badly, and that scared me more than I wanted to admit. Reyes Vetrovsky didn't shake. He laughed at danger, smiled through violence, and treated the world like it was his personal playground. But right now, pressed against my chest as we wove through traffic, he felt fragile in a way that seemed impossible. When we pulled up to the warehouse, Vera was waiting outside with 3 other alphas from my crew. Her expression was carefully neutral, but I could see the tension in her shoulders as she watched Reyes climb off the bike. This was unprecedented, bringing a Vetrovsky into Bristow territory, asking my people to work alongside the enemy. But she didn't question it, just nodded once and led us inside. Christoph had transformed the war room into a command center, multiple screens displaying maps and surveillance feeds. I ran facial recognition on the boy, he said, pulling up an image. Leo Marchetti, 10-year-old alpha, son of Victor Marchetti, The alpha who ran that family until they were wiped out 6 months ago. Everyone thought Leo died with them. But he didn't. I studied the boy's face, his father's features, sharp intelligence even through fear. Someone kept him alive. Why? Reyes moved closer to the screen. What else do you know about Victor Marchetti? Christoph pulled up more files. He was involved in underground fighting rings. Not just betting, invested in the infrastructure. Leo was showing promise as a fighter. Won 3 junior championships before turning 10. Victor was training him personally. Reyes' jaw clenched, and I saw recognition there. Something he wasn't ready to share. The industrial complex Kostya mentioned. I said, what did the Petrovich family run there? Import-export officially, Vera answered. But everyone knew they had other operations. Smuggling. Some rumors about fighting rings in the sublevels. Fighting rings. I glanced at Reyes. He was staring at the map like it was a death sentence, hands clenched, his scent shifting to something darker. Fear or rage with nowhere to go. We need blueprints of that complex, I said. Security footage if available. And every family hit by these kidnappers in the past 6 months. If they're taking specific people, there's a pattern. Already on it, Christoph said. Reyes finally spoke, his voice rough. The Marchetti family wasn't random. Victor had connections to old Eastern European operations. The kind that specialized in training fighters young, breaking them down and rebuilding them into weapons. He paused, struggling. If they took Leo because of his fighting ability, they're not planning to ransom him. They're planning to use him. Then we get them both out, I said firmly. We have 40 hours. Is it enough? Reyes turned to face me, intensity making my alpha instincts rise. You don't understand what these people do. 40 hours is a lifetime if you're in their hands. Every minute we waste. He cut himself off, jaw working. I moved closer, aware of Vera and Christoph watching. Then tell me what we're walking into. For a moment I thought he might, but then that mockery slid back into place. Just trust me when I say we need to move fast. It wasn't an answer, but it was all I'd get. Vera, I need a team ready to move within 12 hours. Best fighters. No one with families. You're going in tonight? She sounded calculating, not surprised. That's aggressive. Aggression is what we need. I looked at Reyes. Can you get us intelligence on current security? Already made the calls. I'll have something within the hour. He pulled out his phone. But Bristow, if we're doing this tonight, this isn't going to be a clean extraction. These people fight dirty. Good, I said coldly. So do I. The next hours blurred. Preparation, planning, coordination. Christoph pulled blueprints and thermal scans. Vera assembled 8 alphas and 3 betas. Reyes made call after call, pulling in favors from contacts I'd never accessed. We worked side by side like we'd done it 1,000 times. I'd outline tactics, he'd pull intel. He'd suggest entry points, and I'd assign personnel. We fell into rhythm without discussion, and it felt inevitable. Like this was what we'd been building toward through all those years of rivalry. Around hour 6, Vera pulled me aside while Reyes was on a call. Boss, I need to say something. If it's about trusting Vetrovsky, it's about you. Her alpha presence was deliberately muted. I've been with you 7 years. I've never seen you like this. Distracted. Emotional. And before you say it's about Isabella, that's not what I'm talking about. I knew exactly what she meant. You look at him differently, she continued, voice low. You move differently around him. He does the same with you. Whatever happened last night changed something fundamental. So I need to know. Can you lead this operation without your judgment being compromised? The question should have offended me, but she wasn't wrong. I can do this, I said. Isabella comes first. Everything else doesn't matter until she's safe. Vera studied me, then nodded. All right, but after this is over, you're gonna have to figure out what you want. Because the way you two are circling each other, something's going to break. She walked away, leaving me with thoughts I didn't have time for. She was right. This thing with Reyes was unsustainable. Eventually, we'd have to choose. Stay enemies or become something else. But that was a problem for after. By hour 8, we had a plan. Aggressive, risky, relying on assumptions that might not be accurate. But it was our best chance. Thermal imaging showed activity in 3 locations. We'd split into 3 teams, hit simultaneously, and extract Isabella and Leo before they could regroup. Reyes had contributed heavily, his knowledge of similar operations invaluable. He knew how these groups thought, organized security, placed exits. It should have made me suspicious, but instead it made me more certain. Whatever he'd lived through was connected to this. We move at midnight, I announced. 3 hours. Vera leads Team 1, Christoph coordinates from here. I'll lead Team 2 with Vetrovsky. Questions? Marin, a veteran alpha, raised his hand. Boss, no disrespect, but are we really trusting a Vetrovsky to have our backs? What if this is a setup? Fair question. But when I looked at Ray's, saw the determination in his face, the way his jaw was set, I knew with certainty he wasn't betraying us. Not on this. Vetrovsky stays with me, I said firmly. Anyone with a problem can sit this out, but I trust him to help me get my sister back, and that's all that matters. Ray's expression shifted, surprise, then something like gratitude, before he controlled it. Marin nodded and sat back. As the team dispersed, Ray's caught my arm. You didn't have to do that. Vouch for me. Yes, I did. I held his gaze. Because it's true. I do trust you. Something flickered in his eyes, vulnerability, maybe hope. Dominic. The use of my first name hit differently, intimate, made my chest tight. But Christoph called out about updated thermal scans, and the moment shattered. We moved apart, back to tactical partners, and threw ourselves into final preparations. I checked my weapons, 2 guns, 3 knives, extra ammunition, and tried not to think about all the ways this could go wrong. Tried not to think about Isabella scared and hurt, or the boy she was protecting, or how Reyes had looked at that photo like he was seeing ghosts. The clock ticked down. Midnight approached. Somewhere in that industrial complex, my sister was counting on me. I wouldn't fail her, even if it meant trusting the one person I'd sworn never to trust. Even if it meant admitting that Reyes Vetrovsky had somehow become essential to me. Midnight came too fast and too slow at the same time. The industrial complex loomed ahead of us like a graveyard of rust and concrete. Abandoned buildings casting shadows that seemed to swallow light whole. Our convoy split 3 ways at the perimeter, Vera's team peeling off toward the eastern sector, another group heading north, while Reyes and I led our team straight into the heart of it. The building we targeted based on thermal scans was a massive warehouse, its loading docks sealed with chains that had been recently replaced. Fresh chains meant recent use. It meant we were in the right place. I signaled to the 4 alphas and 2 betas behind us, and we moved in formation toward the side entrance Reyes had identified. He'd been right about everything so far, the security patterns, the blind spots in what little surveillance existed, even the way the guards rotated. It should have reassured me. Instead, it just reinforced how much he knew about operations like this, and the question of why burned in the back of my mind. Reyes picked the lock in under 30 seconds, his hands steady despite the tension radiating from him. When the door swung open, he glanced back at me, and something passed between us. An understanding, maybe, or a promise. We were in this together now. Whatever happened next, we'd face it side by side. The interior was darker than expected, our night vision adjusting slowly to reveal a maze of corridors and storage rooms. The scent hit me first. Unwashed bodies, fear, and underneath it something chemical that made my alpha instincts bristle. This place had seen violence recently. A lot of it. We moved quietly, weapons raised, every sense on high alert. The building felt wrong, too empty for the thermal signatures we'd detected. Then I heard it, voices echoing from deeper inside, and the unmistakable sound of someone crying. Isabella. I started forward, but Reyes caught my arm. His grip was firm, grounding, and when I met his eyes, he shook his head fractionally. Wait, that gesture said. Don't rush in emotional. I wanted to argue, wanted to tear through every wall between my sister and me, but he was right. Charging in blind would get us all killed. So I forced myself to breathe, to count bullets under my breath. 1, 2, 3, and let my tactical mind override the panic. We rounded a corner and found them. 5 guards, all alphas, positioned around a reinforced door. Too many for a quiet takedown, which meant we were about to get loud. I caught Rey's eye and saw my own thoughts reflected back. No choice now but to fight. I signaled to our team, counted down from 3 on my fingers, and then everything exploded into motion. The first guard went down before he could shout, Rey's blade finding his throat with brutal efficiency. I took the second with 2 shots, center mass, clean kills, and then we were moving deeper into chaos. The choreography was insane, like something we'd practiced for years instead of never having fought side by side before. Reyes went left and I went right, and somehow I knew exactly where he'd be, what angle he'd take. When he dropped low, I was already firing over his head. When I pivoted to cover our 6, he was there to watch our advance. Back to back, then apart, then together again in a dance that felt inevitable. One guard lunged at me with a knife, and I caught his wrist, twisted hard enough to hear bones snap. He screamed, and I silenced him with my elbow to his temple. Beside me, Reyes laughed. Actually laughed. as he disarmed another guard and used the man's own weapon against him. There was something wild in his eyes, something unhinged and beautiful and terrifying all at once. This was who he really was beneath the mockery and the charm. This was the alpha who'd killed his way out of hell and taken an empire as his prize. The last guard tried to run. Reyes caught him, slammed him against the wall hard enough to crack concrete, and the man went limp. Silence fell, broken only by our heavy breathing and the ringing in my ears from gunfire in close quarters. Blood spattered the floor, none of it ours, and my hands were shaking with adrenaline I couldn't burn off yet. "You took my kill," I said, because I needed to say something, needed to break the tension before it consumed me. Reyes turned, his eyes still wild, his chest heaving. "You were too slow. I was being strategic. You were hesitating." He stepped closer, and I could smell gunpowder and alpha musk and that indefinable thing that was just him. "I don't hesitate." The space between us felt charged, electric. One of our team members cleared his throat, reminding me we had an audience, but I couldn't look away from Reyes, couldn't step back from whatever this was building toward. "Neither do I said, my voice rough. His smile was sharp, dangerous. "Could have fooled me, Bristow." I wanted to argue, to push back, but we had a mission. I turned to the reinforced door the guards had been protecting and tried the handle. Locked, predictably. "Breach it," I ordered, and two of the betas moved forward with tools while Reyes and I stood watch. The door gave way with a screech of metal, and then I was through it, my weapon raised and my heart in my throat. The room beyond was large, divided into sections by chain link fencing. Cages. There were actual cages, and in one of them I saw her. Isabella, bruised and bloodied but alive, her arms still wrapped protectively around Leo. The boy was curled against her, his face hidden, but I could see him trembling. "Bella!" I holstered my weapon and rushed to the cage, my hands already working on the lock. She looked up, and relief flooded her face so intensely it hurt to see. "Dom!" she whispered, her voice cracked and raw. "You came." Of course I came. The lock gave way, and I pulled the cage door open, reaching for her. She stumbled out, still holding Leo, and I caught them both. My sister felt too light in my arms, too fragile, and rage burned through me at whoever had done this to her. "I've got you. You're safe now." Behind me, I heard Reyes moving through the room, checking other cages. "Dominic," he called out, his voice tight. "We need to move. Now." This was too easy. He was right. 5 guards for a facility this size didn't make sense. This felt like a trap, or like we'd hit a secondary location instead of their main operation. "Everyone out," I ordered. "Extraction route Alpha. Go." Our team moved efficiently, 2 of them taking point while others covered our exit. Isabella clung to me, and I could feel her shaking, feel the fear she was trying to hold back. Leo stayed pressed against her side, silent and unnaturally still. I tried to get a better look at him, but Isabella's grip tightened. "Don't," she whispered. "He's terrified. Let's just get out of here." We made it back through the corridors, but as we approached our exit, gunfire erupted from somewhere ahead. Vera's voice crackled through my earpiece. "Contact. Multiple hostiles. East sector." And then the line went to static. The trap was springing, just not the way they'd planned it. They'd concentrated their forces elsewhere, expecting us to split up, to make ourselves vulnerable. "Change of plans," I said, pulling Isabella toward an alternative exit Reyes had identified during planning. "We're going out on the south side. Reyes, you're on point." He moved ahead without question, and I marveled at how easily we'd fallen into this dynamic. Him leading, me trusting him to lead, both of us protecting what mattered. We navigated through abandoned offices and storage rooms, the sounds of fighting growing distant behind us. Leo stumbled, and Isabella caught him, but the boy was exhausted, barely able to keep moving. I scooped him up despite Isabella's protest, tucking him against my chest, and the weight of him felt impossibly small. We burst out into the night air, and I immediately looked for our extraction vehicles. They were there, engines running, Vera's team already loading up. I handed Leo to one of the betas, helped Isabella into the SUV, and was about to climb in myself when Reyes grabbed my arm. "Wait," he said, his face pale in the moonlight. "The boy. Where's Leo?" "Safe. In the vehicle. We got him out." "No." Reyes' grip tightened painfully. "That's not." He pushed past me, yanking open the SUV door and staring at the child inside. The boy looked back at him with dark, frightened eyes, and Reyes went absolutely still. "That's not Leo Marchetti." The words shocked me. "What?" "That's not him. I don't know who that is," But it's not Leo. Reyes stepped back, his breathing becoming rapid, shallow. They moved him. They knew we were coming and they moved the real target. Your sister was bait. That kid was bait. And we fell for it. I stared at the boy in the SUV. Maybe 8 years old, terrified, clinging to Isabella. Not Leo. The photo had been staged, or they'd switched the children. We'd gotten Isabella back, but we'd failed. The real victim was still out there, and Reyes was unraveling. I could see it happening in real time, his hands shaking, his eyes going distant, his breathing becoming erratic. He backed away from the vehicle, away from all of us, and I recognized the signs. Panic attack, flashback. Whatever demons he'd been holding at bay since seeing that first photo were clawing their way to the surface, and he was drowning. Get them out of here, I ordered Vera. Take Isabella and the kid to the safe house. Medical attention, debriefing, everything. Boss, now. I didn't wait for her response, just turned and went after Reyes. Whoa, you've made it this far. If you're still enjoying the story, drop a comment and tell me where you're watching from and what time it is. I love seeing how far these stories travel. Now let's continue. He'd made it maybe 20 feet before he stopped, his back against a rusted shipping container, his chest heaving. I approached slowly, carefully, like I was dealing with a wounded animal. Reyes, look at me. He didn't respond, just stared at nothing with eyes that saw something else entirely. Somewhere dark, somewhere he couldn't escape from. I moved closer, close enough to touch, and placed my hand on his chest over his racing heart. You're not there. You're here with me. Breathe. They have him. Reyes choked out, his voice breaking. They have Leo, and they're going to do to him what they did to me. The cage, the fights, He couldn't finish, just made a sound that was halfway between a sob and a growl. Understanding crashed over me like ice water. The fighting rings, his father's operation. The way Reyes knew exactly how these groups worked, exactly what they'd do. He'd been Leo. He'd been that 10-year-old boy with talent and potential, trapped in a cage and forced to become someone's weapon. We'll find him, I said fiercely, my hand moving to cup his face, forcing him to focus on me instead of whatever horrors he was reliving. Reyes, listen to me. We'll find Leo. I promise you. But I need you here with me, not lost in the past. Can you do that? His eyes finally focused on mine, and the pain in them was devastating. I can't lose another one. I couldn't save the others. The kids they put in those cages with me. I couldn't save them. Something in my chest cracked open. This unhinged, dangerous alpha who laughed at violence and treated the world like a game. He'd been trying to save children he'd been caged with. Had carried that guilt for over a decade. You were a child yourself. That wasn't your responsibility. Then whose was it? He demanded, his voice raw. Who was supposed to save us? I didn't have an answer, so I did the only thing I could. I kissed him, hard and desperate and claiming, pouring everything I couldn't say into the press of my mouth against his. For 3 seconds he was shocked, still frozen by surprise, and then he was kissing back just as viciously. All teeth and dominance, and neither one of us yielding, two alphas trying to consume each other, trying to prove something neither of us could name. It was brutal and perfect and not nearly enough. I backed him harder against the shipping container, my hands in his hair, and he grabbed my jacket to pull me impossibly closer. The kiss tasted like blood and desperation and something that felt dangerously close to need. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, his eyes were wild but present. Here with me instead of lost in the past. That doesn't mean anything, I said, even though it was a lie. Keep telling yourself that. Reyes breathed, his lips curving into something that wasn't quite a smile. Then his expression sobered. I know where they're taking Leo, the real location, the one I should have told you about from the beginning. I studied his face, the fear still lingering in his eyes, the determination fighting through it. Where? My father's old compound, the one I burned down after I killed him. His voice was hollow, dead. Apparently someone rebuilt it, and they're using it exactly the same way he did. The implications were staggering. This wasn't just about trafficking or kidnapping. This was about Reyes' past coming back, about unfinished business with his father's legacy, and I was about to walk straight into it with him. Then that's where we go, I said simply. He searched my face like he was looking for doubt, for hesitation, for any sign I didn't mean it. Dominic, if we do this, if we go to that place, I can't promise I'll stay in control. That place does things to me, makes me into someone I don't want to be. I gripped his shoulders, holding his gaze. Then I'll be there to pull you back. That's what partners do. Partners, he repeated softly, like he was testing the word, like it meant something more than a tactical alliance. Then he nodded once, sharp and decisive. All right, let's go finish this. We started back toward the vehicles, but before we got there, my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number, the same one that had sent Isabella's photos. I opened it, dreading what I'd find, and there it was. A new image. Leo Marchetti, definitely Leo this time, chained in what looked like a cage. His face was bruised, and there was dried blood on his shirt, but his eyes held a defiance that reminded me painfully of Ray's. Below the photo, looking for someone? Come find him. You know where we are. And Ray's, welcome home. I showed Ray's the message and watched his face go from pale to absolutely white. Then something shifted in his expression. Something cold and deadly that I'd never seen before. They want me back, he said quietly. That's what this has always been about. They took your sister to force you to work against me, knowing I'd recognize Leo, knowing I'd figure out where they were operating. They want me to come back to that place. Why? His smile was bitter, broken. Because I'm the one who got away, the fighter who killed his way out and survived. And to people like them, that makes me either a legend or unfinished business. He looked at me, and there was something in his eyes that looked like goodbye. This is my fight, Dominic. You got your sister back. You don't have to. Don't. I cut him off, my voice hard. Don't you dare try to push me away now. We're partners, remember? That means I'm with you until the end. Whatever that looks like. For a moment he just stared at me. Then he pulled me in for another kiss. Softer this time, almost tender, like he was memorizing the taste of me. When we broke apart, his forehead rested against mine. You're going to regret this, he whispered. Probably, I agreed. But I'm doing it anyway. We climbed into the vehicle together, and as we drove toward whatever hell waited at Ray's father's rebuilt compound, I realized something that should have terrified me but instead felt inevitable. I wasn't just doing this for Leo anymore. I was doing it for Ray's. For the broken boy he'd been and the damaged man he'd become. For the partner who'd fought beside me like we'd been born for it. For the alpha who'd somehow become essential to me in less than 24 hours. We were heading back to his nightmare, and I was going willingly. Because somewhere between hating him and fighting beside him and kissing him like I was trying to consume his pain, I'd stopped being able to imagine facing anything without him. The drive to the compound took an hour, but it felt like driving through decades of Ray's life. He sat rigid beside me in the passenger seat, staring out the window at nothing. His hands clenched so tight his knuckles had gone white. I'd sent Vera ahead with Isabella, pulled in reinforcements from 3 different crews, and called in every favor I had to assemble the kind of team that could storm a fortress. But none of that mattered if Ray's couldn't hold himself together long enough to get through this. Talk to me, I said quietly, keeping my eyes on the road. Tell me what we're walking into. For a long moment he didn't respond. Then, in a voice so hollow it barely sounded like him, my father built that compound when I was 8. It looked legitimate on the outside, a training facility for fighters, completely legal. But underneath, in the sublevels, that's where the real operation happened. Kids mostly, some adults. Anyone who showed promise got thrown into the cages. We fought until we couldn't anymore, and then we fought some more. My grip tightened on the steering wheel. How old were you when he put you in there? 12. Said I needed to be broken down before I could be built up properly. That alphas like me, too proud, too dominant, needed to learn what real power looked like. Ray's laugh was bitter, broken. He kept me there for 4 years. For years of fighting, bleeding, watching other kids die. By the time I finally killed him, I was so good at violence it was the only language I spoke fluently. I wanted to pull over, to grab him and hold him until the tremors running through his body stopped. But we didn't have time for comfort. We had maybe 18 hours left before these people moved Leo again, before they broke him the way they'd broken Ray's. You survived, I said instead. You're still here, still fighting. That means something. Does it? He finally turned to look at me, and his eyes were devastated. Because most days it doesn't feel like surviving. It feels like I'm still in that cage, still fighting, still waiting for someone to let me out. The vulnerability in his voice nearly destroyed me. This was the truth beneath the mockery and the violence. A man who'd never really escaped, who carried his cage with him everywhere he went. I reached over and grabbed his hand, threading our fingers together. His hand was cold, shaking, but he held on like I was the only solid thing in his world. Then we end it tonight, I said firmly. We go in there, we get Leo out, and we burn that place to the ground. Again. Properly this time, so it can never come back. Something flickered in his expression. Hope, maybe, or determination fighting through the fear. You make it sound so simple. It is simple. Not easy, but simple. I squeezed his hand. They hurt you. They're hurting Leo. We stopped them. Everything else is just tactics. He was quiet for another minute. Then, when we get inside, I need you to promise me something. If I lose it, if I go too far, become too violent, too reckless, you pull me back. Whatever it takes. I promise. I meant it absolutely. But Reyes, if we're making promises, you need to promise me something too. You come out of there alive. No heroic sacrifices, no staying behind to make sure everyone else gets out. You survive this. His lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. Demanding, aren't you? I'm an alpha. It's what we do. I brought his hand to my lips, pressed a kiss to his knuckles without thinking about it. The gesture was intimate, possessive, and completely inappropriate given the circumstances. But I didn't care. If we were about to walk into hell, I wanted him to know that I'd be there with him every step of the way. We arrived at the compound just after 2 in the morning. From the outside, it looked exactly like Reyes had described, a large industrial complex that could pass for a legitimate business. High fences, security cameras, the kind of lighting that said they had nothing to hide. But I could feel the wrongness of the place the moment we pulled up, could sense the violence that had soaked into its foundations. Our team assembled in the shadows. 12 fighters total, mix of alphas and betas, all heavily armed and grim-faced. Vera had stayed with Isabella, but she'd sent her 3 best people, including Marin, the veteran alpha who'd questioned trusting Reyes. Christoph was coordinating from our headquarters, his voice steady in our earpieces as he talked us through what little intel he'd managed to gather in the past hour. Thermal imaging shows approximately 15 to 20 people inside, Christoph reported. Most concentrated in what looks like a sublevel, consistent with Reyes' description of a basement facility. I'm picking up multiple heat signatures that could be cages or holding cells. Any signs of Leo? I asked. Hard to say definitively, but there's a smaller signature in the southeast corner of the sublevel that matches a child's size. Reyes was studying the building like it was a living thing he needed to kill. The main entrance will be defended, but there's a service tunnel on the west side. My father used it to move fighters in and out without being seen. If it's still there, we can use it to bypass their security. And if it's not? Marin asked, his tone skeptical. Then we go through the front and deal with whatever's waiting. Reyes' voice had gone cold, detached. He was shifting into combat mode, locking away the vulnerability he'd shown me in the car. Either way, we're getting that kid out. We found it exactly where he said, hidden, sealed with a door that opened too easily. Trapped, definitely, but we had no choice. The tunnel led to a corridor like a prison. Concrete walls, flickering lights, the smell of old blood. Reyes moved through it like walking through nightmares. We descended to the sublevel. What I saw made rage burn through me. Cages, dozens. In almost half were people, mostly children. And in the center, in a cage larger than the others, was Leo Marchetti. The boy stood gripping the bars, bruised but eyes defiant. He looked like a fighter. He looked exactly like Reyes must have. Welcome back, Reyes, a voice called out, and a man stepped into the light. He was older, maybe 50, with the kind of face that had seen too much violence and enjoyed it all. Alpha, his scent thick with dominance and cruelty. I wondered if you'd remember the way home. Reyes went absolutely still beside me, and when I glanced at him, his expression was blank. Empty, like he'd left his body and gone somewhere else entirely. Alexei, he said, his voice devoid of emotion. I thought I killed you. You tried. Alexei smiled, and it was one of the most disturbing things I'd ever seen. Put a bullet in my chest. Left me to bleed out in the ruins of this place. But I survived. Rebuilt everything your father created. And I have you to thank for bringing me exactly what I needed to make it all work. What are you talking about? I demanded, unable to stay silent. Alexei's gaze shifted to me, amused and condescending. Ah, Dominic Bristow, the self-righteous alpha who thinks he's here to save the day. Tell me, did you ever wonder why your sister was taken? Why the kidnapping was so perfectly timed, so professionally executed? Something cold settled in my gut. You're saying it was personal. It was strategic, Alexei corrected. I needed Reyes to come back here, but he's careful, paranoid, wouldn't walk into an obvious trap. So I created a situation that would force his hand. I took your sister, made sure the trail would lead you directly to Reyes. His smile widened. I was counting on your hatred for each other. Thought you'd tear each other apart trying to save her. What I didn't anticipate was that you'd actually work together. The pieces clicked into place with sickening clarity. The kidnapping had been designed to pit us against each other, to make me suspect Reyes, to create chaos and distrust. But it had backfired because Alexei hadn't understood one crucial thing. I knew Reyes, had spent 10 years studying him, fighting him, learning every tactic and pattern. I knew he'd never use Isabella as leverage because he operated by a code, twisted as it was. And more than that, I was obsessed with him in ways I'd barely admitted to myself until now. You failed, I said coldly. Your plan didn't work, didn't it? Alexei gestured around the room. You're here, aren't you? Both of you. Exactly where I wanted you. His expression darkened. But the real genius was Leo. I knew that even if the first plan failed, even if you two somehow managed to work together, Reyes would come for this boy. Because you're weak, aren't you, Reyes? You see yourself in every broken child, and you can't help but try to save them. Reyes' hands were shaking, his breathing shallow. I could see him fighting the trauma response, fighting the pull of this place and these memories. But before he could spiral, the north entrance exploded open. And in come Dmitry Vetrovsky, Reyes' second in command, bursting through with at least 20 fighters, hitting Alexei's forces from behind. The old Alpha's eyes locked on Reyes, fury and relief warring in his expression. You didn't think to call me? Dmitry roared over the gunfire, taking down 3 guards with brutal efficiency. Your second in command had to track you down like a lost puppy? Uncle, Reyes' voice cracked with shock. We'll discuss your terrible judgment later. Dmitry's crew flooded in, turning the tide instantly. Right now, we finish this. Alexei's expression twisted with rage at the sight of Dmitry and said, You should have died with Vetrovsky Sr. But I didn't, Dmitry interrupted. I chose Reyes. Choose the boy with enough spine to kill his own father over a man who got off on torturing children. And now you're going to pay for every kid you put in these cages. He gave a signal and chaos erupted. Dmitry's crew poured in from the north entrance while we pressed from the west, catching Alexei's forces in a perfect pincer movement. Gunfire exploded through the space, and I moved on instinct, covering Reyes as he threw himself toward Leo's cage, providing suppression fire while Dmitry's people systematically dismantled Alexei's guards with brutal efficiency. The Vetrovsky crew fought with a coordination that came from years of working together, and they were devastating. Every guard who tried to mount a defense was cut down. Every tactical position was overrun. This wasn't just a rescue operation. This was an execution, and Dmitry was orchestrating it like a maestro conducting a symphony of violence. I reached Leo's cage and worked the lock while Reyes provided cover. The boy's eyes were wide, terrified. When the cage door opened, Leo didn't hesitate. He launched himself at Reyes, arms wrapping around his neck, and Reyes caught him like he was the most precious thing in the world. I've got you, Reyes whispered, his voice cracking. You're safe now. I've got you. Around us, the battle was turning decisively in our favor. Dmitry had Alexei cornered, 3 of his best fighters surrounding the man who'd rebuilt this nightmare. But instead of killing him immediately, Dmitry looked back at Reyes. He's yours, Dmitry said simply. If you want him. Reyes stood slowly, Leo still clutched against his chest. He looked at Alexei, the man who'd tortured him, who'd been his father's enforcer, who'd rebuilt the cage that had defined Reyes' entire life. For a moment, I thought he might pull the trigger, might take the vengeance he'd earned 1,000 times over. Instead, he shook his head. I'm not that person anymore. I'm not the weapon you and my father tried to make me into. He looked at me, and his eyes were clear despite the tears tracking down his face. Dominic makes the call. This is his operation. His choice. The trust in that statement nearly broke me. He was giving me the power to decide, trusting me to make the right choice when every instinct he had probably screamed for blood. I looked at Alexei, at this man who'd kidnapped my sister, tortured children, built an empire on suffering. I could kill him, should kill him probably, but Reyes was right. We weren't weapons anymore. We were better than that. Dmitry, I said, secure him. We'll let the authorities handle this one. Let him rot in a cage for the rest of his life. Seems fitting. Dmitry nodded approvingly, and his crew moved to restrain Alexei. The man started shouting threats, promises of revenge, but they fell on deaf ears. He was finished, and everyone in that room knew it. Our teams worked quickly to free the remaining prisoners, to secure the facility, and to ensure no one else was hiding in the shadows. Within 30 minutes, we had everyone out, 37 people total, ranging from children to adults. Not everyone they'd taken over the months, but everyone who was still here, everyone we could save. As we emerged into the night air, Leo still clutched against Reyes' chest and Dmitry coordinating the evacuation with the kind of efficiency that spoke to decades of experience. I felt something shift inside me. We'd done it. Not perfectly, not without cost, but we'd done it. We'd saved these people, destroyed this place, and somehow survived with our humanity intact. Reyes sank to his knees in the grass, exhaustion and relief finally overwhelming him. Leo clung tighter, and I moved to kneel beside them both, pulling them against me. Around us, Dimitri was organizing medical care, secure transportation, everything these survivors would need. The old alpha caught my eye over Reyes' head and nodded once. Approval, acceptance, maybe even respect. Is it over? Reyes whispered, his voice raw. It's over, I confirmed. You're free. They're all free. He let out a sound that was halfway between a laugh and a sob, and I held him tighter. Held him and Leo both, the three of us locked together in exhaustion and relief and something that felt dangerously close to hope. Dimitri approached, his expression softer than I'd seen it all night. Boss, he said to Reyes. Time to go home. But Reyes didn't move, just looked up at his uncle with vulnerable eyes. Where's home, uncle? I don't know anymore. Dimitri's face gentled even more, and he reached down to grip Reyes' shoulder. Home is wherever you choose it to be, and for the first time in your life you actually get to choose. His gaze shifted to me, meaningful. Looks like you've already started making that choice. We didn't go back to my headquarters. Dimitri directed us to a safe house an hour outside the city, a sprawling estate with invisible security and the kind of resources that made it clear the Vetrovsky organization ran deeper than I'd realized. The survivors were taken to a separate facility where medical teams were already waiting, arrangements made with a few phone calls that demonstrated just how efficient Reyes' operation actually was. Leo refused to let go of Reyes during the entire drive, small hands fisted in his jacket. The boy hadn't spoken since we'd pulled him from that cage, just held on with desperate intensity. Reyes kept one arm wrapped around him while staring out the window, his expression distant and exhausted but not broken. Not anymore. Vera called while we were en route, her voice sharp with concern. Boss, where are you? Isabella's stable, asking for you, and I've got half the crew wanting to know what the hell happened tonight. Safe house, Vetrovsky territory, I said, watching Reyes' profile in the darkness. We got Leo out, got everyone out. I'll brief you tomorrow. Tomorrow? She sounded incredulous. Dominic, you just conducted a joint operation with our sworn enemies. The crew needs answers now, not tomorrow, Vera. I repeated, firmer this time. That's an order. Tell Isabella I'm safe. I'll see her in the morning, and that everything worked out. There was a long pause. This changes everything, doesn't it? Yeah, I admitted quietly. It does. She hung up without another word, and I knew she'd handle it. That's why she was my second. She understood when to push and when to trust my judgment, even when my judgment looked insane from the outside. When we arrived at the safe house, Dimitri was already organizing his people with military efficiency. He caught Reyes' arm as we exited the vehicle, his expression stern. My office. Now, we need to talk. Reyes' jaw tightened, but he nodded. He carefully transferred Leo to a quiet Omega woman who had that gentle presence that made children trust instinctively. Get him cleaned up, fed. I'll be there soon. Leo's grip tightened. You're coming back? I promise, Reyes said, and the boy reluctantly let go. I followed them inside to what looked like a study, dark wood, leather furniture, the kind of room designed for serious conversations. Dimitri closed the door and turned on Reyes with controlled frustration. You didn't tell me, he said flatly. You disappeared, allied with the Bristow clan, and walked back into that compound without a word to your second-in-command. Do you have any idea how that looks? How does it feel to track you down and find you partnered with our enemy? Reyes' expression went cold, that mocking edge sliding into place like armor. I had it handled. Did you? Dimitri challenged. Because from where I stood, you were walking into a trap specifically designed for you. What if it had gone wrong? What if? But it didn't. Reyes' voice was sharp now, defensive. We got the kid out. Mission accomplished. What more do you want? I want you to trust me. Dimitri's voice rose slightly before he controlled it. I've been with you for 15 years. Reyes, pulled you out of that compound, helped you build everything you have now. And you couldn't tell me you were doing this? That you were working with Bristow? That you were going back to that place? Something flickered in Reyes' expression. Guilt, maybe, or pain. I couldn't think past getting Leo out. When I saw that photo, I saw what they were doing to him. Everything else disappeared. He stopped, jaw working. I'm sorry, uncle. I should have told you. Should have trusted you with it. I fucked up. The apology seemed to deflate Dimitri's anger. He moved closer, gripped Reyes' shoulder. I know why you did it. I know what that place does to you. But you're not alone anymore. You have people who would have helped without question. His gaze shifted to me, including, apparently, a Bristow. It's complicated, Reyes muttered. I figured that much out, Dimitri said dryly. The question is what happens now. You two planning to announce an alliance? Because that's going to cause problems in both organizations. We'll figure it out, Reyes said, but he didn't sound convinced. Dimitri studied us both for a long moment, then nodded. Fine, but next time something like this happens, you tell me first. That's what a second-in-command is for, to have your back, even when you're making insane decisions. He headed for the door, paused. The boy's asking for you. Second floor, blue room. Then he was gone, leaving us alone in the quiet study. Reyes let out a long breath, some of that rigid tension finally releasing. Well, that went better than expected. He cares about you, I said. That's why he's pissed. I know. Reyes moved to the window, staring out at the dark grounds. I'm not used to having people care. Not used to having to explain myself or check in or any of that shit. For years, it was just me against the world. And now it's different. I finished. Now you have people, including me. He turned to look at me, and something in his expression shifted. About that, what exactly is this, Dominic? Because I'm getting mixed signals here. 1 minute you're kissing me like you're trying to claim me, the next you're all business and tactics. The question was fair. I moved closer, close enough to feel the heat radiating off him. I don't know what to call it. All I know is that the idea of going back to being enemies feels impossible now. That watching you break down tonight made me want to burn the world down for you. That I can't stop thinking about you, even when I should be focused on everything else. So what, we're just going to pretend the past decade didn't happen? Forget that our fathers raised us to hate each other. His voice was sharp, but I heard the vulnerability underneath. The fear that this couldn't be real. No, I said firmly. We acknowledge it happened. We acknowledge that we've hurt each other, sabotaged each other, made each other's lives hell. And then we decide if we want to keep doing that or if we want to try something different. Different how? He was closer now, close enough that I could see his pulse jumping in his throat. Different like this. I closed the distance between us and kissed him, and this time no adrenaline or fear was driving it. Just choice. Just want. He kissed back immediately, his hands coming up to grip my jacket, and the kiss went from tentative to hungry in seconds. Two alphas, both dominant, both fighting for control even in this. When we broke apart, his eyes were wild. We're insane. This is never going to work. Probably not, I agreed. But I'm willing to try if you are. He searched my face like he was looking for doubt. For any sign I didn't mean it. I don't know how to do this. The relationship thing. Being vulnerable with someone. Any of it. Neither do I admitted. But we'll figure it out. Together. Together, he repeated, testing the word. Then that infuriating smirk returned. Just so we're clear, Bristow, I'm not going easy on you just because we're sleeping together. You try to take my territory, I'll still fight back. Good, I said, matching his smile. I'd be disappointed if you didn't, but maybe we fight each other in bed instead of in the streets. Seems more productive. His laugh was surprised, genuine. You're actually kind of perfect, you know that? Uptight and controlling and absolutely perfect for dealing with my particular brand of chaos. Someone has to keep you in line. Please. He pulled me in for another kiss, this one slower, deeper. We both know you like it when I'm out of control. He wasn't wrong. I kissed him until we were both dizzy with it, until the world narrowed to just us and this impossible thing we were building. When we finally pulled apart, I rested my forehead against his. Leo's waiting for you, I said quietly. For us, Reyes corrected. He asked for both of us, according to Uncle. He paused, and something shifted in his expression. Vulnerable but determined. Which means we need to figure out what we're doing about him. I want to adopt him, Dominic. Keep him. Raise him. But that's... He stopped, seeming to struggle with the words. That's a lot to ask. So I need to know if you want to co-parent with me. If you're willing to make that kind of commitment. I stared at him like he'd lost his mind. Which, objectively, he had. We'd known each other as enemies for a decade. As something else for less than 48 hours. And he was asking me to raise a traumatized 10-year-old together. It was insane. But then again, I should have expected nothing less from Reyes Vetrovsky. The man who laughed at danger, who just walked back into his worst nightmare to save a child he didn't know, who somehow made the impossible seem inevitable. You're actually serious, I said. Completely. His eyes were steady on mine, no mockery, no games. I know it's fast. I know it's crazy. But that kid, he needs someone who understands what he's been through. And I can't just walk away from him. I won't. The conviction in his voice made something settle in my chest. Then yes, I heard myself say, yes, I'll co-parent with you. We'll figure out the logistics, the territory thing, the living situation, all of it. Relief flooded his face, followed quickly by something that looked like hope. You mean that? I wouldn't say it if I didn't. I grabbed his hand. But you're right, we can't exactly do this living in different territories. We'll need to figure that out. We will, Ray said firmly. Same as everything else. We found Leo upstairs, freshly bathed and wearing clothes too big, sitting on the edge of a massive bed with a quiet Omega woman, Elena, nearby. His eyes locked onto Ray's immediately, relief flooding his face. You're still here. I'm still here, Ray's confirmed, moving to sit beside him. I followed, taking position on Leo's other side. I'm not going anywhere. Leo studied us both with eyes too old for his face. What happens to me now? My family is gone. I don't have anywhere to go. Ray's and I exchanged glances. Then Ray spoke, his voice gentle in a way I'd never heard from him. You stay with us. We'll figure out the details, but you're not going into the system. You're not being shuffled around to strangers. You stay. Leo's eyes widened. Both of you? But Elena said you run different organizations. That you're supposed to be enemies. We were enemies, Ray's corrected. Now we're something else. Still figuring out what exactly, but definitely something else. He reached out and ruffled Leo's hair gently. And that something else includes making sure you're safe. Permanently. The boy looked between us, processing with sharp intelligence. You mean like parents? He asked uncertainly. The question hung in the air, weighted with implications neither of us had fully considered. Parents. That was a huge step beyond partners, beyond whatever undefined thing we were building. But looking at Leo's hopeful face, at Ray's protective posture, I found I didn't want to take it back. Something like that, I said carefully. If that's what you want. Leo bit his lip, and for the first time since we'd found him, I saw tears gathering in his eyes. I want that. I want to stay with you. Both of you. Ray's pulled him into a hug, and the boy buried his face against Ray's chest and finally let himself cry. Great heaving sobs that spoke of weeks of held-back fear and trauma. Ray's held him through it, one hand stroking his hair, his own eyes suspiciously bright. I moved to sit on Leo's other side, one hand on his back, and the three of us sat like that while Leo cried out everything he'd been holding inside. Elena quietly excused herself, giving us privacy, and I was grateful. This moment felt sacred somehow, like we were forming something new out of the ashes of our separate traumas. Eventually, he fell asleep, exhausted, and we tucked him in carefully. Standing there looking down at this child we just committed to protecting, the magnitude of it settled over me. We're actually doing this, Ray said quietly. Raising a kid together when we haven't even figured out what we are to each other. Guess we'll figure it all out at the same time, I said. Seems fitting somehow. He turned to look at me, and his expression was softer than I'd ever seen it. You're really okay with all of this? The kid, the complications, working with me instead of against me? Instead of answering, I kissed him again. Soft, sure, a promise of something we were building together. When we broke apart, his eyes were bright. I don't know how to do this, he admitted. Neither do I said. But we'll figure it out. That seems to be our thing now. Figuring shit out together. Together, he repeated, and this time he smiled. I like the sound of that. 6 months later, and the underworld was still trying to figure out what to make of us. The territory merger had been chaos, the kind that happened when two rival organizations stopped fighting each other and started fighting everyone else. Marin had questioned my judgment a dozen times before finally accepting this wasn't temporary insanity. 3 of Ray's crew tried staging a coup, thinking he'd gone soft. Dmitri handled them with brutal efficiency that reminded everyone why he was second in command. Vera just shook her head one day and said, "You're disgustingly happy. It's unsettling." She wasn't wrong. I was happy. Stupidly, dangerously happy in a way I'd never imagined possible. Ray's and I bought a place together, neutral territory, sprawling enough for Leo to have his own space. Compromise defined us. I wanted structure, he wanted chaos. We made it work because we were both too stubborn to admit defeat. We still fought. About everything. Constantly. Passionately. This morning's argument was about whether Leo needed a bodyguard for school. I said yes, the kid was a target. Ray's argued that wrapping him in bubble wrap would make him weak. It escalated until we were both shouting, pheromones flooding the kitchen. while Leo calmly ate breakfast watching us like we were entertainment. "You're both idiots," he announced. "I don't need a bodyguard. But I do need Uncle Dimitri to teach me those knife tricks." "Absolutely not," I said as Reyes said, "Deal." We glared at each other. Then Reyes grinned and pulled me in for a kiss. Leo groaned about PDA. The fight ended there, not because either of us won, but because we'd lost track of what we were arguing about. That's how most fights ended now. In laughter, in kisses, in understanding that we were both too dominant, too alpha, too everything, and somehow that made us perfect. Isabella had healed with the resilience I should have expected, turning trauma into purpose. She started a security company protecting vulnerable targets, hired people from both organizations. She and Vera became unlikely friends, probably sharing stories about how difficult I was. I pretended not to notice. Leo was thriving in ways that still surprised me. The nightmares had lessened, the fear in his eyes had faded, and he'd started training. Not because we forced him, but because he'd asked. "I want to be strong like you," he told Reyes one night. "I want to make sure no one can ever put me in a cage again." Reyes had spent the next 3 hours teaching him defensive techniques, his voice gentle in a way it never was with anyone else. The kid called us Dad. Both of us, no differentiation. We'd had one argument about which of us should be called what before realizing it didn't matter. We were both his fathers now. Tonight, Leo was at Isabella's for a sleepover, which meant we had the house to ourselves. Our usual battle for dominance. As Reyes called it with that mocking smile, which was code name for sex by the way, had been particularly intense tonight. We'd started in the kitchen, moved to the living room, and finally made it to the bedroom, both of us refusing to yield, both of us fighting for control in the way only two alphas could. By the time we collapsed against each other, sweaty and satisfied and thoroughly exhausted, I couldn't remember who'd won. Probably neither of us. Probably both of us. I was half asleep, his head on my chest and my fingers running through his hair, when he spoke. "Marry me." My brain took a moment to process the words. "What? Marry me?" he repeated, not moving. "I want to marry you." I laughed, thinking he was joking. "That's not a proposal." "Yes, it is." He propped himself up on one elbow to look at me, and his expression was completely serious. "I'm proposing. Right now. Marry me." "Reyes, there's no romance. No ring. You're not even on one knee." "We don't do romance," he interrupted. "We do intensity. We do obsession. We do this," he gestured between us. "Whatever the hell this is, spectacular sex and constant arguments and somehow making each other better. So marry me." My heart was doing something complicated in my chest. "That's still a terrible proposal. Is that a yes?" "Ask me properly," I said, even though my answer was already yes. Had probably always been yes since the moment I'd woken up tangled with him and realized everything had changed. He groaned dramatically but actually got up and moved to kneel beside the bed. Completely naked, hair a mess, covered in marks I'd left on him, looking absolutely ridiculous and somehow perfect. "Dominic Bristow," he said, and his voice had lost the mocking edge, gone sincere in a way that made my throat tight. "You're the most infuriating, controlling, uptight alpha I've ever met. You drive me insane. You make me want to fight you and devour you in equal measure. You're the only person who's ever known me, really known me, all the broken parts, and didn't look away. So marry me. Merge our lives like we merged our territories. Let's make this official before I do something stupid like tell you I love you." My breath caught. "You love me?" "I asked you a question first," he said, but I could see the vulnerability in his eyes, the fear that maybe he'd miscalculated, that maybe I didn't feel the same way. I pulled him back onto the bed, rolling until I had him pinned beneath me. "Yes," I said firmly. "Yes, I'll marry you. And Reyes." I leaned down until our faces were inches apart. "I love you too, even though you're absolutely unhinged." His smile was brilliant, transforming his entire face. "Especially because I'm unhinged. Especially because of that," I confirmed, and kissed him to seal it. The kiss was softer than our usual battles, tender in a way we didn't often allow ourselves to be, and when we broke apart, his eyes were suspiciously bright. "So we're really doing this," he said. "Getting married. Making it official. We're really doing this," I agreed. "Think the underworld can handle it?" "The underworld can go to hell," he said cheerfully. "We're doing this for us. For Leo. For the family we're building." "Family," I repeated, and the word felt right. Perfect. This unconventional, chaotic, absolutely insane family we'd somehow created from the ashes of our rivalry. I liked the sound of that. We announced the engagement the next day, and predictably, the underworld lost its mind. Half my organization thought I'd been compromised. Marin actually asked if Reyes was blackmailing me. I'd laughed until I cried, then assured him no, I was choosing this willingly. Reyes' crew expressed concerns with violence. 2 challenges in the first week from alphas who thought he'd gone soft. He handled both with brutal efficiency that reminded everyone why he'd held power since 19. The second challenger ended up in the hospital. Reyes visited to deliver a simple message. I'm getting married. Anyone else want to question my judgment? No more challenges after that. The wedding was chaos condensed into perfection. Reyes wanted huge and dramatic. I wanted small and private. We compromised 50 guests, neutral territory estate, outdoors at sunset. Isabella as my best woman, Dimitri as Reyes' best man, Vera organizing with military precision. Leo insisted on being the ring bearer. I'm part of this too. You're getting married because of me. He wasn't wrong. The ceremony was brief, vows modified to avoid promising obedience neither of us would manage. When the officiant said, "You may now kiss," Reyes grabbed me for a kiss that was possessive, claiming, completely inappropriate, and I kissed back just as intensely, making a statement. We were together now, officially. The guests applauded, some happy, some resigned, most accepting. This was our new reality. And now, even 3 years later, Reyes and we built a community center on top of his father's old building, where at-risk kids could train safely, find purpose without exploitation. Leo helped run it at weekends, teaching younger kids while Dimitri supervised. Isabella's security company became one of the city's most respected. She'd been hired from both organizations, creating something new. Vera joined as a partner, building an empire based on protection rather than violence. Our merged territory had stabilized. Oh, there were still challenges, alphas testing boundaries, smaller families trying to take advantage of what they perceived as weakness. But Reyes and I handled them together, presenting a united front that was more terrifying than either of us had ever been separately. Turned out 2 dominant alphas working in perfect sync was basically unstoppable. We still fought. About everything. Daily. Sometimes hourly. This morning's argument had been about Leo wanting to attend a specialized training program on the other side of the country. I'd said absolutely not, he was only 13. He wasn't leaving where we could protect him. Reyes had argued that wrapping him in bubble wrap would make him weak, that the kid needed to spread his wings. It had escalated until we were both shouting, and Leo had calmly interrupted with, "Can you two maybe figure this out without the alpha posturing? I have homework." We'd both stopped mid-argument, looked at each other, and burst out laughing. Then we'd sat down with Leo and actually discussed it like reasonable people, ultimately deciding he could go if he wanted to. But we'd visit every other weekend. Compromise. We'd gotten better at that. Tonight, we were home. Our actual home, the one we'd built together, with Leo's room and our offices and space for all the chaos we created. Leo was upstairs doing homework, music drifting down from his room, and Reyes and I were in the kitchen attempting to cook dinner together, which always went about as well as our fights. "You're doing it wrong," Reyes said, watching me chop vegetables. "There's no wrong way to chop vegetables. There absolutely is, and you're doing it." He moved behind me, putting his hands over mine. "Like this. See? More efficient." "I don't need efficiency, I stopped, realizing what he was doing. "Are you just looking for an excuse to touch me?" "Always," he said cheerfully, pressing a kiss to my neck. "Is it working?" "Maybe." I turned in his arms, abandoning the vegetables. "But if dinner's late because you distracted me, Leo's going to complain." "Leo can order pizza," Reyes said and kissed me, soft and sure and tasting like home. We were still kissing when Leo appeared in the doorway and groaned. "Seriously? I can't leave you two alone for 5 minutes." "You could knock," Reyes pointed out, not moving away from me. "In the kitchen? That's not a thing." But Leo was smiling, that soft smile that meant he was happy despite the complaining. "Pizza's fine, by the way, since you two are clearly not cooking anything edible tonight." "Smart kid," I said. "I learned from the best," Leo replied, already pulling out his phone to order. 2 dads who can take down entire criminal organizations but can't make dinner without making out in the kitchen. "We're multi-talented," Reyes said proudly. Later, after pizza and homework and Leo finally going to bed, Reyes and I ended up on the couch, tangled together in comfortable silence. These were my favorite moments. Not the dramatic fights or the intense reconciliations, but this, just existing together, comfortable and easy and right. "We did good," Reyes said quietly. "With Leo, with everything." "We did," I agreed, though I maintain that was mostly luck. "Please, We're both too controlling for luck. We forced this to work through sheer stubborn determination. He shifted to look at me. You happy, Bristow? I pretended to think about it. I'm married to an unhinged alpha who challenges me constantly, raises a teenager with me in the middle of merged territory that shouldn't work but does, and somehow makes me laugh every single day. So yeah, I'm happy. Good answer. He kissed me soft and sweet. I love you, you know, even though you're uptight and controlling and absolutely terrible at cooking. I love you too, I said, even though you're chaotic and reckless and have terrible taste in literally everything except me. Especially me, he corrected, and I laughed because he was right. We built this. Built a family from rivalry. Created a home from hatred. Turned obsession into something healthy and real and permanent. It wasn't perfect. We still fought. Still challenged each other. Still drove everyone around us crazy with our intensity. But it was ours. This chaotic, unconventional, absolutely perfect life. And I wouldn't change a single thing. The end. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed the story, share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Don't forget to share with a friend and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next upload. Until next time, keep daydreaming in BL.